Hello and welcome to the morning Rabble transfer deadline day special. I'm joined by Mark. How you doing, mate?
I'm all good, mate. How's yourself?
Aye, good. I'm just glad it's the final day of the window, so the madness can calm down after today because it feels like it's been a mad last 10, 14 days of news and links to players, and so far it's only been obviously Todd Cantwell that's came in the door. So I think we're all hoping for maybe one or two today. All right, we'll touch on the obvious. I know we've kind of spoke about it kind of previously with regards to Todd Cantwell. It's obviously confirmed now that he's in the country since yesterday afternoon. It sounds like it's just the formalities that need to be obviously completed today, all the paperwork, which obviously can take a bit of time. I mean, I don't know if anybody's been watching the Sky documentaries on the transfer deadline day when they kind of follow the agents about with the players. And it's intense actually when you look at a lot of the legal things that come with the transfers. A lot of tax issues and a lot of issues to do with certain clauses in contracts and how the payments are going to be made. So I suspect this is just the hold up point of everything because everything else will have been done by this point. Are we just hoping to hear in the next couple of hours that Raskin's confirmed so that we can move on to the next exciting signing potentially?
Yeah, I know you're not a fan of it, but I love it. As I said, it's the most exciting day of the season for me. I love this deadline day. I'm going to sit and watch Sky Sports all day, right up till midnight. I might even get a couple of beers involved.
Love that. I love that. I mean, I don't know what it is. I guess see when you just watch like Sky Sports News or you watch some of the other things that's online in a day like today, they just kind of repeat the same news like 1,000 times over. So see, like once I've seen it once, like I don't want to just sit and listen to it like 3 or 4 times in the same hour. So I think that's what's really kind of dulled me for it, to be honest.
I'm one of these. It's almost like my screensaver. It's like if there's nothing on the telly, Sky Sports is on, and it's just on as background noise in case something happens. I don't know why. It's just one of those. As I said, it's like, almost like my screensaver. It's just on constantly. My go-to.
All right, so we'll get straight into Raskin. Obviously, as I said earlier, it sounds like it's just the formalities that's left to be done. The usual picture taking, the bit on the Rangers website. Rangers tend to have it on the hour most of the time, don't they? So like 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock. So everybody will be on social media saying, all right, the announcement's at 1 or 2. What time are you going for in terms of the Raskin announcement?
I think it'll be like a 5 o'clock one again. I think that they'll do the same as what they've done with Cantwell. They'll bring him in. I think he'll train with the boys a day, and then once they've done all that, they'll get all the kind of photos and all that kind of stuff all done, and presses and interviews and all that done, and then they'll announce it at 5 usually. I would think. We'll see. It's a lottery in it, really.
As what about outgoings? Obviously, the manager kind of surprised maybe a lot of people yesterday with some of his comments during the press conference. He obviously didn't name the player, but I think most people have worked out that if we do sign Nicholas Raskin, it sounds like the James Sands loan could be cut short to allow him to head back to America or for another transfer to happen. Is that a surprise to you, or do you feel like it's the right choice for James at this stage of his career?
I think it's. I feel really sorry for the boy. I really do because I think there's a player there, but I think that he's a central midfielder, and I don't really think he's had a chance as a central midfielder. And you can look at it two ways. You can look at it if he was good enough, he'd have got his chance at centre midfield. But the other side of the thing is that he's been shoehorned into centre half for bloody most of the season. Just fact that we've been really struggling with injury and stuff. So I feel sorry for him. But I think that if it get cut short and it gets sent back, I don't think there would be many people up in arms really. To be perfectly honest, as I said, I think he's a good player. I think he's one of these types of players that he's very useful because he can play a few different positions as a utility player. But sometimes as a footballer, that's kind of to your detriment, and sometimes it's rather than having to pin down a certain position because
Yeah.
you can play utility, you kind of go under the radar a wee bit. So, as I say, I don't think many people will be up in arms if it does get cut short. I think that probably the amount of money that they're looking for is probably going to affect that as well because I think that they were looking for close to 4 or 5 million. So,
Yeah.
yeah, they're not going to pay that. Simple as that. I don't think he's. I'm not saying he's not talented enough, but I don't think he's been able to show if he is
Yeah.
talented enough to command that kind of money.
Yeah. I'll come to you on this as well, Mark, because obviously this is something you've spoke about even in like the chat now for a couple of months. Who do you think the mystery player is, the manager? Well, I'll say that Mark's been pretty adamant for a while, even before this window, that Jake Cooper was somebody that Rangers were very interested in. So even before Michael Beale became the manager, I think this was one of the players that Mark had
Yeah,
been talking about, and it now seems to be kind of doing the rounds in the January window that the centre back the manager might be looking for in the summer is the Millwall centre half Jake Cooper. He's 27 at the moment. I think he's 28 in the not too distant future. I know you obviously have some friends down that neck of the woods. So what can you tell us a
yeah.
wee bit about Jake Cooper?
Well, I'll tell the story. So months ago, maybe 2 months ago, maybe 3 months ago, there's a boy that I work with. He's a mad, mental Millwall fan. I mean, crazy diehard. And obviously, you talk about football, and he just out of the blue said, "I Jake Cooper going to Rangers." I was like, huh? I says, I've not heard his name even mentioned anywhere regarding him close to Rangers. So I said to him, "Well, where are you getting that from?" And he's, like, as I said, he's a mad diehard, so he's the same as us all. Anything to do with Millwall, he's on it, internet and YouTube and blogs and all that. So, and he said that that's circulated round Millwall for a good while. That the fact that he's going to Rangers. So obviously, I spoke to him and asked him what kind of player he is. So I'm led to believe he's massive. He's like 6'8", and he's one of these players that wins absolutely everything in the air, as you can imagine. But he scores a lot of goals from headers, obviously, and corners and stuff. So, and he's pretty good with the ball at his feet as well for such a big guy. So, obviously, done a wee bit of research. But I stuck this in the group chat, the Rabble group chat, maybe 2.5 months ago, and nobody really kind of went, nobody really took me on, and obviously it was just a case of this is what I've heard, and it came from maybe not a good source, but it came from a diehard Millwall fan that obviously in the Millwall circles this has been talked about. So looked at it a wee bit. As I said, he's a good age, he seems to think that he's one of the best players at Millwall, and he'd be gutted to see him go. So for me, if a Millwall fan saying that, I know that a lot of players leave clubs or are talks of leaving clubs, and a lot of fans. He's hopeless anyway, and he's rotten. But he's genuinely gutted if he does go. So, and I believe he's out of contract at the end of the season as well. So there might be legs in it. As I said, I'm just it's just hearsay conjecture at the minute. But as I said, this is just what I'm heard, and it's a wee bit odd that I've heard that 2 or 3 months ago, and all of a sudden his name's cropped up. So there might be something in it, as I said, but I'm not gonna bank my house on it.
Yeah, yeah, it's an interesting one when you actually like us when you brought it up in the chat at the time. You obviously go away and start having a look at the guy, looking at his transfer, kind of dealings, his contract, all this kind of stuff, and it was interesting straight away. And the obvious part of that was he was out of contract in the summer. And clearly, a guy who's doing well for Millwall. Millwall should, yet again a reasonably good season in the Championship. I don't think they're the highest paying club in the world in terms of transfer fees and wages because I think it was quoted that the deal for Kevin Nisbet was going to be a record for them, which is crazy for a Championship club, and your transfer record can be £2.5 million. Given some of the money some of these Championship clubs
Yeah.
spend these days, I mean,
Yeah,
like 2.5 million isn't really a lot of money in football terms, but it shows you how well run Millwall are that they sort of
yeah,
continually seem to find players or help develop players. But certainly somebody that size is going to be a big attribute, isn't it? Somebody that can win a lot of
100%. Yeah.
headers, can be physical. He can do it in the other box as well. He could add you some goals, in the attacking part of the field if we've got good
Just on
quality.
that, I mean, it's something I feel we've struggled for a wee while, with balls into the box and stuff. So commanding centre half, I know that obviously we kind of generally don't need a commanding centre half, but I mean, even the amount of corners we get as well, that could be a massive asset to us. Really good.
Yeah. Right, okay. Well, how can I touch on James Hands? Like my personal opinion on James is I think it's been unlucky for him. You know,
Yeah.
the number 6 position is one that we've had quite a lot of depth in. basically since he's come in the door. So he's ended up playing centre half, which isn't his strongest position. I think anybody can see that. What I would say is I thought his performance that night in Eindhoven, which got us through to the Champions League, I thought that was his best performance in the Rangers jersey. I thought he was absolutely brilliant that night. He defended his heart out. We managed to keep a clean sheet. It was a special feeling, being in Eindhoven that night. And I know most of the guys that were leaving the ground heading back to Vabia were all saying they thought James Hands was absolutely brilliant. And that says a lot about the kid, that even though it wasn't his strongest position, he still gave it everything. But, I totally agree with most of the comments. I don't think for us to pay the kind of 3 or 4 or 5 million, whatever the quoted fee was, I don't see Rangers paying that, especially with the addition of Raskin. It kind of feels like that type of deal for James Sands is far-fetched, especially the fact we can get Raskin for less than that. And he seems like he's maybe more suited to how we're going to be playing moving forward as well. So I think from James's point of view, if that agreement is reached with his parent club back in America for him to head back there or to maybe sign for another European club, then I think it's probably best for all involved, because with John Souttar returning to fitness, with Leon King still being there, he's probably fifth choice at centre half as well. So it's I think at times you've got to do what's right for the player, and I think at this point it wouldn't be far fetched to maybe say that it is maybe best for him to maybe look at maybe going somewhere else for the benefit. Okay, we'll touch on another point for Beep Bob Boop. I think that's how you say it. As we talk about us potentially signing Cameron Archer, how would you feel about that? Yeah, he's one that's been kind of named a few times now, along with Ollie McBurney was another. Obviously, people have kind of linked us with Lyndon Dykes because the manager obviously had him at Queen's Park Rangers. Obviously, up here you've got Kevin Nisbet and Lauren Shankland that have done a lot of damage in Scotland this year. The manager seemed to point towards a different style on number 9 in the summer. So I think we were all trying to work out, Mark, what he means by that. Because you've got Alfredo, who's very bullish. He does a lot of good work outside the box. He's physical. He's averaging either a goal or an assist every other game. He got an assist last time out. Lovely wee flick through. Obviously for Glenn Kamara, wasn't it, the second goal?
Yes.
And then also previous to that, he's either had goals or assists in all his other games, basically. And then you look at like Cholak, he's a penalty box striker, somebody that's going to get you goals. And so is Roof, really. So like, I can only imagine maybe it's somebody that is maybe coming in to replace Alfredo if we don't get him on a new contract. Maybe a similar type of player to what Alfredo is. Do you think that could be Cameron Archer?
I don't really know that much about him. I know that he scores a lot of goals. I know that he's a hard worker and he scores a lot of goals. I don't know if he kind of fits the mold of being that kind of bullish striker. But look, he's a really good player, really good player, and he's really well thought of down south as well. I think he's on loan to Middlesbrough at the minute, and I've got a good pal that's a Middlesbrough fan, and he's saying that he looks really good. I think he's only played a couple of games for him so far since he signed on loan, but he was very impressed by him. So we really don't know. As I said, it's I think that personally, I think that if Morelos goes, I think he's looking for somebody that's going to be bullish and be able to link play. I think we've got somebody that can score goals, penalty box, which is Cholak. So I think somebody that can maybe almost play it like a false nine, like somebody that can occupy 2 or 3 centre halves at a time and maybe bring other people into the play. Maybe no so much as a box striker, as the saying goes, but maybe somebody that can link more. So to be fair, I think although Roof is the best, easily the best finisher at the club, I think he does a lot of good work outside the box as well. I think to link play and his movements, very intelligent as well. So possibly a player that can do that rather than, as I said, rather than being overly bullish. But I don't know enough about Cameron Archer. I know that he scores goals, and I know from reports he's a really good player. But as I said, I don't know. I've not watched him, and I don't know really what type of a player or what type of a striker he is.
Yeah, I had a bit of a look at him. Also, whenever you see somebody's name, because you're coming onto podcasts and stuff like that, you obviously try and do a little bit of a kind of research on the guy. I think he's on a long-term contract at Aston Villa. if my memory serves me right. I think it was at least like 2027 or something like that. So he wouldn't be moving for a small fee if it was him.
No,
That's why
on the
straight
big
away I
bucks.
didn't think. Yeah, that's why I didn't think it would be the type of deal that we would go after, because the manager's been quite strong on the fact that he doesn't really want to do loan signings. So you would imagine if he's going to try and get somebody like that in the summer, it would need to be a permanent deal, and somebody that's under contract for basically another 4 or 5 years at Aston Villa, that probably doesn't fit into our mould. I'll just touch on the comment there for Andy Horn. He's obviously saying that Dylan Reid, the St Mirren midfield player, is having a medical at Crystal Palace. Would have liked to have seen him at Rangers. Andy, look, I think Dylan's a really good player. He's played against us a couple of times this season in the under-18s, and he looks a very good player. I think the only problem for somebody like Dylan is if he was to sign for Rangers, he would probably be part of the B team, which I think where he's been at St Mirren and the fact he's played quite a bit of first-team football, I don't know if he would want to do that. I take it if he goes to Palace, he might go out on loan in the second half of the season to maybe play some more kind of men's football. I never really felt that deal was going to happen. And the only reason I say that is because I don't know if anybody knows, but his dad's on Twitter and he's he's put some tweets out there that I think like basically tells people that he thinks the B team isn't where his son needs to be. So straight away when you read that, you see his dad saying that. So unless Dylan feels like sort of totally different to how his dad feels, which is probably unlikely a lot of the times, that would suggest that he was always going to go somewhere else other than Rangers or Celtic, given he was already kind of part of the St Mirren first team. So I never felt like that deal was 100% going to happen. So obviously good luck to Dylan. He's a good young lad, good young Scottish player, and hopefully that he can kick on down in England and obviously progress and hopefully make it into the Scottish national team further down the line. Andy Hollinsday saying obviously too good for the B team. Same scenario was Lowry. We're just about to touch on Alex. That was actually our next port of call. So well done, Andy. I like that, mate. We've just kind of fed nicely into that. Obviously, the reports this morning would seem to suggest that Alex is available for loan, but it would probably need to be the right fit for Alex because of how he plays. So, whether that's a club in the Scottish top flight or a club in England. What's your thoughts on that, Mark, when you look at Alex? Obviously, with the Raskin deal close to going by, we've already brought in Todd Cantwell. So the opportunities for Alex are probably kind of dropping a bit more. Now, where do you think would be a good fit for him in Scotland, first of all, before we touch on any English clubs?
I think it needs to be the top end, top six Scottish team. Maybe I think probably Hearts. Hearts are playing with their tails up and playing the front foot, so I think that would suit them the style of play. Whether Hearts would be interested is another story, but I think that it needs to be a team that's doing well and doesn't sit with a low block because I don't think I think that would hamper his game rather than accentuate it. So it'd need to be a team that plays football, as far as I'm concerned, and
Right.
I'm not 100% sure there's many teams in the Scottish League that play football. But as I said, a Hearts, possibly an Aberdeen might be worth a shout as well. Even to a certain extent, Hibs. But I don't know if any of these clubs would be interested in him as a loan. So maybe a lower championship or maybe League One in England. But I think, like you said, even the other one you didn't mention was Hadji as well coming back. So I think Hadji is probably going to get that 15, 20 minutes that Lowry would have got.
Yeah,
So I think that, listening to what Beale said, he's kind of flung the gauntlet down, and I think he's done it a couple of times as well publicly. He said it's up to him, and it's up to him to prove. So
yeah,
I think he's maybe a wee bit of tough love with him. I think that he's saying, "Well, it's up to you. You prove you're good enough."
yeah,
So look, if that's the case, then as I said, it's really in Lowry's hands. Lowry has got all the talent in the world, but without hard work, talent's not good enough. So it's up to himself if he can be as good a player as he wants to be, I believe. And as I said, it's just a mentality thing and an application thing, as far as I'm concerned.
yeah. I mean, I've been fortunate enough, as I said quite a few times, to watch Alex now for several years, and he's a hell of a talented lad. His vision to find passes and stuff like that is exceptional, and I just hope that obviously the club make the right decision in this window. To me, when I look at it, I wouldn't be against them moving to a St Johnstone on loan or a St Mirren on loan, because I think maybe learning the other side of the game is as important to Alex as it is going forward. And I think maybe that's some of the points that the manager's trying to make to him, that it's okay doing all the good work at the top end of the pitch, but if you look at Ryan Kent and you look at the way that he works back, and you look at the way that Fashion Sakala works back, if you're going to be in this team, then you need to do that as well. So maybe sending him out to a club where he just needs to work that little bit harder. Because actually, there's no doubt in Alex's ability. I mean, even seeing the little glimpses that we have of Alex in the first team, you can see the quality. It's not like he's totally out his depth in the first team when it comes to his technical ability. So I think to me, it's just the other side of the game that he needs to work on. And he's still young enough to go away and work on that. So he's not a million miles away from being a good player for Rangers. It's just about getting his head down and, putting in the hard yards, because that's all that matters right now for Alex. He signed his new deal. Obviously, Rangers rewarded him by giving him obviously more money, and the club's extended his contract. So he's been given a lot. So it's time for him to give back the other way now and get himself into the first team and show that he's good enough to be at Rangers. And for me, that's a big thing as well. I want every young player to say they're good enough to play for Rangers. Sort of get into the training pitch and show it. Show that you're as good as Tom Lawrence, that you're as good as Todd Cantwell and Yanis Hadji. Go out there and show that. And that will make the manager sit up and think, yeah, that's fine. Let's put the kid in the team. Let's see what he can do. And that's all you can do. If that's not enough, then it might mean you need to go somewhere else. But, just keep doing that. Paul saying, well, Kai Kennedy and Josh McPake be sold today. I know both, obviously, players have been quoted by a few different journalists as saying that it could happen. All right, the two of them's in slightly different positions. Kai's out of contract in the summer. So Kai is probably in a better position to move right now. With Josh, he's still got a year and a half left in his contract. So I don't know if Rangers would be looking for a fee for Josh if he was to move on, or if they would just look for a percentage of the sell-on in that case. But I think when you look at those two players, I think it's hard to see them having a future at Rangers just because of their age as much as anything else now. So it feels like this would be a good move for both of those players to go if the opportunity arose. Obviously, Kai could sit tight until the summer because he's out on loan anyway at Falkirk, so it's not really going to change much for him in that front. For Josh, even if he comes back in the summer, he's still got a year, so the club could still maybe get something for him in the summer. But yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if those type of deals did go through today, just purely because it would get some of the money off the wage bill, and it might clear up space for maybe another player to come in for the B team or for the first team potentially. So yeah, I think there will be quite a wee bit of movement today. I don't think it's just going to be like sort of people coming in the door. I think we will see a few leaving today as well. So we just need to keep our eye on that. Caroline, when she was talking about Alex, is saying Hearts and St Mirren. Yeah, I mean, certainly it's not a bad idea, and it's obviously something that, especially where Hearts are in the league. If Alex was to go there and play, he would be playing for a team that's playing with a bit of confidence, and that's why it's going to be a really difficult game, obviously, tomorrow night. Obviously, Livingston have been quoted a couple of times as well, but I don't know if that pitch is maybe the killer when it comes to sending somebody out on loan. So we'll just need to wait and see what happens on that one. William saying Matondo and Lowry on loan to Swansea and Whittaker to us. You know what? It's not a bad idea in terms of if that deal was to still happen, which, given what the manager said yesterday, it sounded like it probably wasn't going to happen. But if that was feasible, that we could loan a player out to them, obviously to allow us to get Morgan Whittaker, then that's something that could be spoken about with the clubs. I'm sure it has been if they were going back to speak to him again. All right, well, can I move on a little bit and talk about some of the other deals that we think could happen? Obviously, when you look at the goalkeeping situation, that looks as though that's not going to change in this window. The manager has kind of openly said he would like a centre back, but we seem to kind of think between us and between some of the other people that's kind of chatting that might not happen until the summer now. So that will stop Leon King getting out on loan. So what other type of player do you think we're going to try and add before this window closes? Because you're trying to work it out in your head as to what we're looking for, but I'm just not too sure. Do you think we'll maybe try and sign a number 9 now, or do you think that's going to come in the summer as well?
Well, looking at Sky Sports News are saying that Hibs have put an offer in for a boy that's been rejected. Is it Williams? He's a Welsh
Yeah, I
international.
think he's the Welshman. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Is it
So
Swindon Town?
so maybe a wee cheeky bid for them to have more money that would maybe get that deal over the line. So you never know. Maybe a wee cheeky one for Nisbet might be in the cards.
Yeah, look, it's
But
an
I think
interesting one, isn't it? I mean, like, sort of, you
yeah,
look at the other day there, it looked like that was him. He wasn't going to be moving during this window after the Millwall transfer fell apart.
yeah.
But now they're saying that obviously Wigan are now involved in the chat to try and sign him and the boy Josh Campbell, who obviously scored the hat trick at the weekend. I think it's a good thing that we're linked with Scottish players. I've always said that you need a core of Scottish players. Celtic have obviously been linked with Kevin Nisbet as well. So I think it's fair to say there is interest in a player who can score goals at that level. And, given the fact we've had guys like McCoist and Chris Boyd and Kenny Muller, who have all done a good job for us, and they're all Scottish strikers, it's not far fetched to think that we would be interested in Nisbet. And the reality is, he's only got 18 months left in his contract, and it would seem unlikely now that he's going to renew. So it's either do you move for him now, and I mean, I suppose the question I'll ask you is, like, do you think Hibs would be willing to do business with Rangers at the same price they were with Millwall?
Well, the thing is as well that obviously they're looking to sign somebody and they're having bids rejected, so they're having to up their bid elsewhere. So it might be a if we can bring money in one way and we can put more out the other way. So you never know. As I said, it's for me it'd be worth a wee cheeky one deadline day. They're trying to sign somebody. They need a wee bit more financial clout to get this deal over the line for this other boy. So I mean, that might have been that far down the line that they were counting on this Nisbet money. So who knows? But why not? But worth a wee cheeky 1.25 million bid and see what happens and take it for there. So deadline day, as I said, anything can happen. But if they're needing the money to spend elsewhere, then it might be a go. Who knows?
Yeah, the January window is such an interesting one, isn't it? Like, obviously, you're kind of watching a lot of the news that's happening just now on Sky Sports. You're seeing some of the journalists that do a lot of their stuff through Twitter, so you're trying to keep an eye on so much that's going on. But it's as though some transfers just come out of nothing. I mean, like, obviously, it's a bit off topic when we're mainly here to talk about Rangers, but like the sort of João Cancelo move to Bayern Munich yesterday, it's like nobody had spoke about that, and then boom, all of a sudden the guy's already in Munich and he's about to complete his loan move. Do you think that's the sort of deal that will happen with Rangers today? The fact that maybe it's a player that that we've not spoken about, that's not had his name checked anywhere. Do you think that's the kind of deal that we might end up doing, sort of out with the Raskin deal today?
Well, Bill did say that there's a couple that the press haven't had a sniff of yet. So I would think. I mean, you know that as well as I do that there's a lot of talk behind the scenes. There's a lot of people talking. There's a lot of agents pinging emails here, left, right, and centre. So, as I said, realistically, deadline day, which is why I love it. Anything can happen. It really can. But there might be a wee shock. As I said, I'd be happy. Cantwell and Raskin in, I'd be over the moon. Anybody on top of that for me is a Brucey bonus. I'd be over the moon.
Yeah, I mean it's one of those ones, isn't it? When you look at like the window when it first opened, we were probably looking at another midfield player because we felt that was really important, especially somebody in the central area, because we felt as though we did need a body in there and somebody that would improve what we've got. Raskin seems to kind of tick the box on that front. We probably need another attacking threat who could be creative, who could maybe, you know, sort of get us some assists and some goals. Cantwell seems to tick that box. I suppose the only worry, and I know we've touched on it a few times now, however, if if Cholak is is going to be fit and Roof is going to be back in a week or two, do you think that rules us out of bringing in a number 9 before the window closes? Or do you think the manager has to have the thought process of, well, these two guys haven't exactly stayed fit since I've been in here, so maybe we should bring in another player, even though we do have Fashion that can do that job as well?
For me, I'd still doesn't matter. I'd still bring in a centre forward, 100%. If I have the money and I could get the right sort of a centre forward, 100%, I'd bring a number 9. I think Roof's legs are made out of Pringles. He'll be back. You'll get 2 games that I'm going to be injured again. Simple. I don't think you're going to get any sort of sustained run out of Roof. I'm sorry, but that's just going in the past. Then he's not going to be fit. So for me, you have one striker that's struggled with niggles, i.e. Cholak, although he's done well at the start of the season. And you've got another striker that's leaving in 6 months, no, even 6 months now. So I'd bring somebody in. 100% I'd be looking to bring somebody in. As I said, I don't know who, but I'd definitely be looking. I think we need reinforcements. All it takes is, as I said, Roof made of chocolate. So forget Roof. If you get Roof, it's a bonus. That's over and above anything else. But as it stands, you've got one striker that's leaving in 6 months, and you've got another striker that's having wee niggles and struggling to get back to fitness. So for me, you need a fit striker. If anything happens, i.e., something happens to Morelos, i.e.,
Yeah.
he's out for a month. We are proper in the shit, and transfer window closes. It closes. So then you're looking at playing people out of position or trying to bring in a young boy and expecting a young boy to go and do what a seasoned striker's going to be doing for Rangers. So for me, that position's not a good position to be in, and I would 100% go for another striker.
Yeah, look, I think definitely when you look at the fact that both of those players have had injury issues in the last few months, well, Ross Roof even further back than that, clearly, it is a risk to get into the second half of the season, especially if Morelos was to break down, which I think, that obviously happened last season. And, that was a huge blow for us losing Alfie at that point because we then ended up also losing Roof to injury. Then we ended up having to play a Rebo up front in some games. So you don't really want to be left short. So I wonder if that is the deal that we might do before this window closes, if it is another option up front. I mean, clearly there is players out there that are out of contract in the summer that we could maybe try and get right now. But if it is something that's going to happen, it's going to have to happen pretty quickly, isn't it? Like the player would almost need to be in Scotland or England right now doing some type of medical tests. So like it is going to have to happen really, really quickly if that's the case. But I'm trying to keep an eye on Twitter as we go to see if there is any updated news. I'm just reading mad headlines like people are paying more than what the buyout clause for players is. It's like, well, what's the point of having a buyout clause if you're paying more than the buyout clause? Is that not the whole point of having a buyout clause? But yeah, that's just me. I always think transfer deadline day is just absolutely mad, to be honest. Um, what's Aldo saying? William has been knocking it out the park, Ross, mate. You're right. Sad to see you go, buddy, but when you come back, you're a massive pop. You always do. Yeah, look, Ross had obviously contacted Martin the other day there, and he's having a wee time away for the Rabble. But as we've always said, like Ross is always welcome back. Great guy, great character. Love all his outfits, all the spontaneously mad things that he does as well. So, Ross is always welcome back. He's one of the top geezers out there, and we've got a lot of time for the guy. So, hope Ross, mate, I hope you're keeping well, the family's well, etc. That's all that matters, mate. So, hopefully, see you back on the Rabble at some point, and just keep taking care of yourself. But also, we'll get back to today. I just feel like, see, when you look at the numbers in the squad and you look at the players that we've currently got, and also what we have added so far to this window, like, do you think that when this window closes, we are stronger because of that, or are you still a wee bit disappointed that maybe we haven't added one or two more in areas of the pitch where we have had issues this season?
I'm not be disappointed. I think you need to be realistic. I think that we've got a big squad. Now,
Yeah,
on that big squad thing, a lot of people, we're too heavy. Couldn't care less whether we've got 80 players playing for us. I really don't. As long as 80 players are good, I really couldn't care less. I know we're heavy. I know we've got lots of players and stuff like that, and people talk about wage budgets. Stuff. I'm not caring. All I care about is what's happening in the park. That 11 to 16, 17, 18 players that are in that squad on a Saturday is all I care about. If we've got 100 players, I couldn't care less what our wage budget is. But we've got a lot of players that have been injured, and we've been unfortunate with that, and hence the reason why we've got that heavy squad. But I can see players starting to come back. I can see players like your Hadjis and And even like I said, nobody's mentioned Yilmaz for a while. Yilmaz is a couple of weeks away as
Absolutely.
well, coming back.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sutter's now training, probably ready for some minutes as well. As I said, Haji's coming back. So our squad, although it's a big squad, has been very, very depleted with injuries. I think that at one point this season we had 11 players injured. So
Yeah.
I mean, the necessity is to have a big squad so that you can cover that. And at times I've thought we've been pretty threadbare this season, just through injury. And that's what happens. So, but I'll be quite happy. Raskin and Cantwell, I think's two really, really good bits of business. Um, I'll be happy with that. I'll be happy with the likes of Hadji come back. I'll be happy with Suter starting to come back. Hopefully he can stay fit. Um, Even the likes of you get Tom Lawrence to come back as well. Nobody's mentioned him for a while. So we're in a far better place than we have been, especially bringing two bodies in, which has freshened the squad up. And I think, and both of these players have improved our squad, especially Cantwell. I think Cantwell's going to be a superstar for us. The boy's got immense talent, and looking at his debut there, it looks as if he's got a work rate as well. So, I mean, he can only be better. He get better and better and better the fitter he gets and the sharper he gets. So, I'm really, really impressed with him so far. But for me, these two players in is a great bit of business, and I'd be over the moon if that was all we done. And so be it, as I said. But I think we're in a far better place squad wise with these two guys in, and obviously the players that are starting to come back. So I'm quite happy.
Right, we'll not take up too much more of your time this morning, just purely because we're hoping the Raskin deal's announced, so we would do a breaking pod for that. There'll be a members pod tonight as well, and then there is, I believe, a late night podcast. So I think there's up to like 4 pods going on today, so we don't want to keep kind of going through the same stuff, especially if the Raskin deal happens pretty quickly. We've obviously touched on him a lot over the last few days, but thanks again for joining us, guys. If anything happens between now and probably about 3 or 4 or 5 o'clock, it'll probably be me, who will probably be doing the breaking pod unless anything changes. So I'll basically keep an eye on the Rangers page. As soon as that breaks, we'll jump on. Members pod tonight as well. And then after that, I think we're talking about doing a kind of transfer deadline day from about 9:30, maybe. So if anybody's still up at 9:30, make sure you tune into the Rabble because we'll definitely be doing a live transfer deadline day countdown. No idea who's going to bonnet because I'll be at the B team game because Rangers B are playing Open Goal Broomhill tonight. I think Martin's supposed to be coming by me as well, so it could literally be anybody. But stay tuned. Here's hoping we got a couple of signings today. And thanks very much for tuning in and listening to us talk again. Cheers, guys. Bye.